All right, it's Monday, October 10th. This is an end of the day SPY recap, first day of the week, and you can see we end up with a 2-up green week. So after our inside bar failure to the upside last week, price held the midpoint of the prior day and moved up, and it reached our first target that had been discussed in the weekly recap video up here. On the weekly chart, we kind of saw our hammer bar, so we were expecting to go a little higher. We knew that we knew this was our first target, and we can see we reached there on the weekly chart. And now we have this big fair value gap in here to potentially fill. It's going to be interesting that we've reached our target, so anything could happen. We can get an immediate Tuesday reversal starting tomorrow. We could continue higher into this gap, and we will kind of see what unfolds. In the big picture, there's still a monthly chart that has to get up above this area, and a quarterly chart that's a 2 down that has room to run lower. So we're really paying attention to any reversals that happen. But we have some pretty good reference points now. First of all, you can see this little purple line here. This lines up with the start of today, which is the week. It also happens to be the start of the month. So, and that's down here. So until, we can look for failures up here, but until the market really starts moving below this purple line, our reference point, we're not going to expect any big picture, downward continuation, even though we're kind of waiting for that. So, again, this is the open right here of the week, and it also happens to line very close to the open of the month, which was right here. So that's kind of a good reference point now. We we broadened out a little higher. If we start back down and come through this area, then expect these lows to be taken out. Until then, we can continue to play the upside into all these gaps up here, but we'll see what happens. We start out with the Monday reference point. In terms of today's trading, definitely a little bit tricky with the international news. The market was gapping down, but then it was kind of starting a little bit up from those lows overnight, and we had I kind of put our pre-market range up here, the highs of it, although, this was really the high of the overnight action, which we were staying above from the open. But nevertheless, first bar green, and then we went up. I bought some calls here. I shot a video how when I didn't see the immediate follow through, a little bit concerned about how the market would react to some news, I exited at break even. If you didn't do that, then if it comes back through the mid, this bar kind of held, we held here, and then as we came down, you might have had to take a small loss here. Again, there's no real reason to be thinking short, given that you're above the midpoint of the prior day. If you just that's kind of how my methodology all comes together. Once I see, until I'm below the midpoint of the prior day, getting ready to take out a low or continuing lower, I don't really, have a bias to the downside, unless we were really failing and getting to the midpoint of that bar, and then we could be thinking maybe we're getting an outside day back to the downside. But after a big green day here, you're not really looking for that. Maybe a little consolidation at best. So anyway, once it came down here and took out the intraday lows, you could see there was an immediate inside bar, and right here, whether you bought it or not, you might not have looked at that as a strong signal, but that was the only thing to really say, try, is that you had a failure on the downside, and we're going to come back up now at this point and see what happens. If you just didn't do that, you could have, immediately gotten out and see if we started heading towards those pre-market lows. But anyway, it ended up coming up and took out the high of the day. Now, for some reason, well, not for some reason, I knew what I was doing, but I bought some puts up here after the shooter bar just to see what would happen, and then I took a small gain, as I discussed on an earlier video. So, there was really, I knew it was a trade that, really didn't fall in line with our overall uptrend that was in place with a target above, but I just wanted to see it. And then I got out with a little gain. And quite frankly, what this was, obviously, is the 2 down, 2 up was the buy to take out the high of the day one more time, and then obviously exploded through there and went up, much higher. So this was it was the only real trade to attempt, given the way I like to look at price action. You had an upward bias, you had a pullback, and then, orderly pullback, and then a move up to test the highs of the day. So to me, the opening trade was a good buy. And if you wanted to kind of play this inside bar up after the failure to take out that low, it was something to give a shot to, but a little tricky. But again, we weren't really breaking down past that first bar low, so that was a reason to try that. And then this buy here was the only other trade, given my methodology, to really try. I didn't take full advantage of it, but that's okay. I just was more conservative today about what would develop. But I always kind of said, even with the when I was buying puts here, that I was expecting these highs to be taken out up here. I mean, on the weekly chart, I kind of suspected we were heading up to that area. Daily chart, I've been talking about how this high should be taken out. So it ended up doing that. I didn't catch it, and that's fine. So now tomorrow we have the reference points. We have our, we've broadened out. Let's keep an eye out. Any failures to the downside and getting below this purple line is going to be, pretty good trading to the downside. But until then, you got to kind of stick with the price action. And today it was up, and we can have a, more continuation up higher into this whole gap area. We'll look at it on the weekly chart here. This is a whole area where we could be filling it all the way up there. So, we really want to see how this weekly chart ends. And we're looking for, a weekly chart that just doesn't seem to have the, continuation to really start moving all the way back up to highs. And we'll find out. It's a good start to the week, but, you never know how it's going to end up. And this was an area where we might get the turnaround Tuesday to the downside, might not. But that's kind of what we're playing for. So until then, we'll stick with the upside, and let's just see how the rest of the week goes. And a lot of economic reports coming out this week, which can make it tricky in terms of volatility. But I think overall, if we kind of look at the pre-market ranges always in our first bar and where things go and failures, we'll be able to, there'll be some good opportunities because the volatility is pretty good right now.